welcome back to my channel. I've just got to grab a couple of things from the garden for today's recipes, and then we will head inside and start making some really easy weeknight dinners. So I've got to grab some herbs and some baby carrots, and then we'll head inside and get started. So I got everything. I've got a handful of carrots, some herbs. Let's go inside. All right, so I grabbed some beans and a little bit of silver beet. I need to wash my carrots, take the stems off. I was chasing baby carrots, so we've got one pretty good sized one. The rest are all nice and small. All right, my oven is set to 180 degrees, and in these pans I have set out all the ingredients I need for each of my dishes today. All right, so my oven is on. It's at 180 degrees Celsius. I think that's around 350 Fahrenheit. I will make sure in my description box I have a temperature converter as well as a cup converter for anyone who needs those things. What I'm doing today is I'm going to essentially meal prep 4 different one-pan tray bake style dinners. Of course, these are suitable for lunches as well. I've got my compost bin there. I have, as you would have already seen, already put my ingredients into the pans I'm going to be cooking them in. If you're going to cook things in sort of en masse like that, it's easy to pre-organize your ingredients. It makes it quicker. So there's just a little tip for anyone who wants to make like 4 or more dishes at once in their kitchen to do sort of meal prep, is organize your ingredients. It will make the actual cooking process simpler. So today we're going to be making a Italian meatball pasta, 1 pan, 1 tray bake. We're going to be making a Moroccan chicken and pumpkin bake with quinoa. I'm going to be making some honey soy drumsticks with rice, chicken drumsticks. And I'm also going to be doing some pork meatballs with a creamy apple mustard sauce and mixed veggies. So with these dishes, they can be pre-cooked and then reheated on the night you need them. They can be, most of them can be stored in the fridge and then cooked the night you need them, or you can, delegate them into individual containers and have like freezer meals out of them as well. So I'm going to get straight into it. They're all family friendly. They're pretty much budget friendly. I've used cheap cuts of meat, a lot of stuff out of the garden, and yeah, so let's get started with the first dish I'm going to make, and that's going to be the Moroccan chicken and pumpkin. I have a pumpkin. I've already taken a slice out of that for a different dish another day. I've got 2 chicken breasts. All right, and then in my dish that I'm going to be baking in, I've just put all my ingredients, okay? And what I've got is, I'm going to be baking all of my things now, and then we'll eat 1 for dinner tonight, and the other 3, 1 will be dinner tomorrow night, so it's just going straight to the fridge, and then the other 2, I haven't decided if I'm going to segregate them up or not yet. I'm giving my pan a good spray with some olive oil. You can cook these in like an oven tray as well. It doesn't have to be like a glass casserole dish, okay? I'm just slicing 1 onion. All of this is going to get mixed together, and I'm just going to mix everything in my dish to make my life simpler. I've got an orange, and I want the zest of my orange. All right, that orange made me that orange. The onions made me cry, so I've just wiped my eyes. All right, zest of 1 orange. To that, we want some chickpeas, but I'm going to drain them because I don't want the liquid. Right, I want some pumpkin. All right, I want some pumpkin. And what I'm going to do is I want this to be chunky pumpkin. Okay, so I'm going to use about a quarter of a pumpkin. And I'm leaving skin on because this particular style of pumpkin is really nice and you can eat the skin. And I'm just going to cut wedges that are about 1 centimetre thick. So when we serve this, we'll get a piece of pumpkin, we'll get some of the quinoa, we'll get some chicken, and it'll all be delicious. So here in my little tray, what I have is 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of coriander, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of turmeric. All right, now I'm just going to sprinkle all over the top my spices. Okay, I want to put my chickpeas in here, all over the top. Like, this couldn't get simpler, I did say that. The whole idea of this meal, I'm going to add just a little bit more pumpkin. The whole idea of these meals that I'm making today is that I wanted them to be simple. Some of them are a little more involved than others, but I wanted things that were quick to throw together and taste good, family friendly, and if possible, freezable. So that is it for like the vegetable component. And now we just want to put our chicken, our quinoa, and our chicken stock, and we are good to go. But before I do that, I will put a little salt and pepper. I made this chicken stock 2 days ago, and I don't put salt in my chicken stock, just in case I accidentally oversalt a dish. So I want to get all that mixed together. We want to cut our chicken, and I'm using a different board for my chicken. I don't want to contaminate the board I'm using for other things. This is just chicken breast, and I'm just going to cut it into pieces. Sort of that size, okay? And we are just tossing all of this together. This is going to save me so much effort over the next few days. I've got quite a bit going on in my life right now, so my future me is going to be super grateful that I put the effort in today to make these dishes. So what I'm going to do is going to move this out of the way, give that a good stir with my hands, add a little bit of olive oil, and then we can just finish off with our quinoa and our chicken stock. I'm going to add probably 2 tablespoons of olive oil. What I want to do is get this well mixed before we add our stock, because I want those spices on the chicken, on the onions, on the pumpkin, everything just well married together. All right, now I have tricolour quinoa here. And I want about, I'm actually going to only add half a cup. You could add up to a cup if you're a super fan of quinoa. I'm just going to sprinkle on top. Okay. We will put chicken stock carefully over that. So that's one 400ml jar, okay, of chicken stock. I'm going to add a little bit of water, probably half a jar, so about 200ml or about a cup roughly of water as well. And then we're going to cover with foil and straight in the oven. So because this is Moroccan inspired flavors, we could add some sultanas or raisins as well if we wanted. My family would crack it if I did that. For some reason, they like sultanas and raisins and things like that in sweet dishes, but they're not a fan of that in a savoury way. So I'm going to wrap that in foil and straight in the oven. My oven has preheated. We're looking at about 30 minutes in the oven with the foil. Then we'll take the foil off and have a look, and I'm thinking maybe another 10 minutes. We want everything to be cooked and delicious. So straight in the oven. So for my honey soy chicken drumsticks, all cooked in the one pan with rice, I am just going to glaze, or not glaze, spray my tray with a little bit of olive oil, so that's ready to go. I want to make just a real quick, it's not even a marinade, it's more of a sauce or a dressing that's going to be cooked in. And in here I'm going to add about a tablespoon of rice vinegar. I want about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. And I'm eyeballing it, you do what you want to do if you're making this. I want about a tablespoon of oyster sauce, a good tablespoon of honey, or dessert spoon. Okay. We want about a tablespoon of sesame seeds. And I'm going to keep them out because I will put more of those on the top when we're finished. I'm going to add a little bit of sesame oil to this one. Just about a tablespoon of sesame oil. Alright, I've got a little knob of ginger here, fresh ginger. I'm going to add that. If I didn't have fresh ginger, I'd just use powdered ginger, or like minced ginger would be fine. A little bit of salt, pepper, okay. Now I just want to toss my chicken drumsticks, and I've got 2 in a bag here, and then I have a tray and these are even still a little frozen, but it's okay. Really doesn't matter. I'm going to do this away from this board. Oh, I need to put garlic in. I forgot my garlic. I'm going to put 3 cloves of garlic in here as well. Okay, I'm getting my hands in here and I'm going to give this a good mix. I want the sauce all over my chicken. And this is just maybe not the best bowl to do this in. I probably could have done it in my pan, except that I want to pour the sauce over the top. And if I'd mixed it in my pan, the sauce would have been sitting at the bottom. So as long as they've all got some on them, that's good. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, so now into my pan, I've got about 1.5 cups of basmati rice. If I didn't have basmati, any long grain rice would work. To that, I'm going to add some chicken stock, and I have one can or 400 mils roughly. I'm just going to give that a little bit of salt. And I'm going to add another half a jar, so another 200 roughly mils of water. Now to this one, I'm going to add some corn and some beans, but I don't actually want them in there straight away. Oh, and some shallot tops. So, because I don't want them in there straight away, I'm going to get them ready. And these are the little corns that we grew. I harvested them all. So far, they've all turned out great. We haven't had bugs or anything like that in them. If I wasn't using my own fresh corn and I wanted to make this, I could just use 1 can of corn or even frozen corn, like about a cup of frozen corn would also work. I'll be adding my corn and my beans for the last 10 minutes of cooking time. So what I'm going to do is just get them ready so that I don't have to do anything else for this dish other than put these things in there. I'm also going to cut my shallots, which I'll be sprinkling on top when they are done. And using beans out of our garden, these will be going in whole. So I've got them ready. I've got about, a good handful of beans here, and I've got my corn. I'm going to quickly cut just some green onion tops. And to the end of this dish, I'll sprinkle my green onion tops and just a little bit more sesame seeds, so they can all live together over in the corner while we finish this one off. So straight on top of our water rice, stock rice, I'm laying my chicken. Okay, just like that. I'm going to get all of this and make sure it's on top of all the chicken. The corn and the beans, they just get sprinkled on top. Now if I didn't want to cook this now and I wanted to cook this, say, tomorrow, I could just wrap that really well in foil and then Glad wrap and pop it in the fridge. Keep my corn and beans and shallots separate, also in the fridge, and then tomorrow night, if I wanted to cook it then, straight in the oven with just the foil on top. It's going to take about another 30 minutes to begin with, and again we'll look at it, and then probably the last 10, that's when we'll put in the sides. So I'm going straight into the oven with this one, and I'll set a timer for half an hour, give this a quick clean up, and we'll move on to the third of our tray bakes. Okay, so the next dish I'm going to make is a pork meatball, and it's going to be cooked with some vegetables, like on top of vegetables, And we're going to add like a creamy apple and mustard sauce to that one. That one's not going to freeze so well if you were wanting to make these and were thinking about freezing. Cream doesn't freeze as well as you would hope, but it will reheat just fine in like the microwave, or you can put a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan and pop it back in the oven to reheat it. So the meatballs I'm going to make are using half an onion, but because we're making beef meatballs for the fourth dish, I'm going to go ahead and dice the onion for that one as well, and just set it aside. So just a really simple pork meatball of half an onion. And that's my half an onion for my beef. So it can just live over there. All right, I also want 2 to 3 garlic cloves. Probably a good heaped teaspoon of garlic if you were using like jarred garlic. You can also add like onion powder, garlic powder to these if that's something you want to do, if you want to make them. Okay, I've got some sage that I just picked out of the garden, and I'm going to use a decent little bunch of sage. Dried sage is also substitutable. Probably 2 teaspoons of dried sage. Alright, can't forget some salt and pepper. Good pinch of salt, good crack of pepper. And I am happy to announce, anyone who's been watching my videos for a little while, I did a garden tour recently, and it was a winter garden tour. So I've got half a cup of breadcrumbs there, and I'm adding an egg, and then I'll add 1 kilo of pork mince. So in my winter garden tour that I did recently, I was still whinging that it was still hot. Well, I'm happy to report it has cooled down at long last for southeast Queensland, at least at night time. We're getting some nice cold nights, which is a lovely change from the heat and humidity that we experienced all through summer and autumn. So I am glad to say that we are enjoying some cooler weather now. So these tray bakes are going to be really yummy. On our cold nights. We will serve this one, because it's going to get roasted with vegetables under it. We'll serve this one with probably some bread rolls. Little dinner rolls would be nice. Give this a good mix through, get your hands right into it, don't muck around with wooden spoons and things like that. You're not going to mix it properly that way. Nothing's quite as good as the original utensils, your hands. Alright, I've got a little cookie scoop here. I'm just going to give that a little spray with oil to help me make nice, tidy little meatballs. And I'm just popping them in this tray, just so that they're set aside. Of course, you could use frozen meatballs. You could pre-make meatballs in advance. I love to pre-make meatballs and have them in my freezer, so that when I want something simple like one of these dinners, part of it is already done. That is my timer going off. So that was our Moroccan chicken timer, and that was 20 minutes. It's not quite ready to sort of have its last 10, so I'm going to give it another 15 minutes and then we'll check it again. So back to our meatballs. I could have pre-done these and had them sitting in the fridge. And if I was going to cook this dinner in a night or two instead of now, I would just get everything prepared. So I'd get the meatballs prepared and I'd have them in the fridge. I'd get all the veggies and things like that cut and put in the dish, and I'd have the sauce mixed up, ready to go. So I'd have the 3 sort of different components done, and they would just be in the fridge, ready for me to cook them on the night that I want to cook them. We're going to have this one for dinner tonight. So I'm cooking it now and it's about lunchtime, so it's a bit early for me to have dinner ready. But all we'll do is this afternoon, when it's time to reheat dinner, or this evening, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of water in the pan, pop some foil on it, and straight back in the oven for sort of 10-15 minutes until the meatballs and the vegetables are reheated, and then that will be dinner ready to go. And as I said, I'll just grab some bread rolls out of the freezer, which I have pre-made, to serve with these ones. Alright, meatballs are done. They're just here, resting, waiting for me. We are going to spray the tray. Okay, this one we are going to put vegetables in the bottom. So I have like half a packet of frozen broccoli. I want to add some onion wedges. In the tray. I'm going to peel my pumpkin this time. So that is about 1/8 of a pumpkin, or half of a quarter, if you need help knowing what that is. I have 1 green apple that I'm going to pull the core out of. I'm just going to slice that into sort of thick slices. Alright, we are going to use some of those carrots that I grabbed earlier, and I wanted them to be sort of chunky. I wanted to leave a little bit of the green on the top where I could. This is a beautiful purple one. The purple one will stain the dish slightly, so just be aware of that if you're using coloured carrots. So I want to give this a good drizzle with olive oil, because what we're going to do is roast our vegetables with our meatballs. Then we're going to add our sauce, and then we'll pop it back in the oven. All right. So if this was something that I wanted to not have today, that would be component 1 done, component 2, and then the sauce would be component 3. But because we are going to do this all now, popping our meatballs on top. You wouldn't even need the bread if you didn't want to have bread with this. You could literally just serve it as it is, just the meatballs and the vegetables with the sauce. I just like to have a little bit of bread to soak up any juices that are in there. All right, we are going to pop that one in the oven as soon as I've got one ready to come out. I'm not going to put foil on this one, but that one's ready for the oven. I am going to make the sauce, and for the sauce I'm going to need another apple, and we are just going to grate that. I want a teaspoon of seeded mustard, nice heaping teaspoon, maybe 1.5. I want Dijon mustard, but I didn't have any, so about a tablespoon of Dijon. I'm going to use American mustard, but if you're making this and you have Dijon, use Dijon. I want about half a cup of chicken stock. Half a jar, a couple of tablespoons of some white wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar. Give that a good mix. Of course, salt and pepper. Pinch of each. And then to that, you want about 250 mils of cream. Don't worry if it curdles a little bit because we put the vinegar in there. It's okay. It's all going to come together in the cooking anyway. And that is the sauce that we're going to pour over top of our pork and vegetables for sort of the last 10 to 15 minutes once they are well roasted. So our Moroccan chicken and pumpkin is almost done. I've taken the foil off that and it's just caramelizing nicely on the top, giving it some pretty color, making sure our quinoa is well cooked through, as well as everything else. So it'll be out of the oven in a minute and I'll put the pork in. But while I'm waiting for that to happen, I'm going to get started on the final dish that I'm making today, which is the Italian meatballs pasta tray bake. And we'll also be making some ricotta cheese for this one as well. So if you are wanting to know how to make ricotta cheese, make sure you like and save the video so that you can come back and see how we make ricotta. And you could make the ricotta first, and normally I make the ricotta and let it sit. But because I am waiting on my oven, we've got a bit of a queue happening. I'm just gonna get the meatballs done for this one first before I do the ricotta. So in my bowl, I have half a diced onion, half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs and 1 egg. I'm adding 2 chopped garlic cloves. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of mixed Italian herbs, eyeballing as usual, salt, pepper, and I've got a kilo of beef mince, and a kilo is roughly 2 pounds beef. And just like we did the pork balls, get our hands in there, nice clean hands. Got everything well mixed. And again, I'm going to roll these balls out, put them in a little plastic container while I'm waiting to make the rest of the dish. And my kitchen smells incredible, I will say. These dishes are going to save me so much effort on the 4 nights that we eat them, but also they're super simple. If you want to make these and you didn't want to pre-make them like what I'm doing today, and you're just going to do them on the night, they're super simple. They smell great. The ones I've tasted taste great. Kids love them because they've got meatballs and chicken and, you know, things like that. My kids love them, I should say. I don't know about your kids. I only know what my kids like. And another thing that you can do if you didn't want to spend time rolling meatballs, or mince was not in your budget, but like sausages were, you could substitute the beef and even the pork for sausage links. So the raw kind, the Australian barbecue sausage style. And you could either just pull the mince or the sausage filling out of the casings, or you can just chop them up into little pieces and use them little sausage bits as your meatballs. So that's a cheats way, an even cheaper way to make 2 of these dishes. And with the pumpkin and chicken, you could substitute chicken breast for chicken thigh. You could substitute drumsticks for either of those chicken dishes. Any cut of chicken will work. All right, so the Moroccan chicken, pumpkin, and quinoa is done out of the oven. Smelling absolutely incredible. I'm going to get my pork, meatball, and veggies straight in. For that one. And I'll set a timer for about 25 minutes on the pork. The Moroccan chicken took 40 minutes all up and it is looking delicious. I'm going to sprinkle some parsley on the top of that just to give it a little bit of color and make it pretty, but it can just rest there. Actually, I might pop it on the stove behind me to rest, to cool down a bit. I'm going to check the chicken drumsticks. And they are colouring up beautifully. They smell delicious. You want to check the rice is cooked in the middle. Okay, so my rice is not quite done in the middle and the chicken is not quite cooked either. They've been in there for 35 minutes so far. They're going to be at least another 10, maybe even 15. So allow a good hour for the drumsticks and the rice. I have taken the foil off of that as well so that we get some nice colour on the top of our drumsticks. So my meatballs for the beef, Italian meatballs, they're rolled out, they are ready to go. I'm ready to assemble my Italian pasta beef meatball tray bag. I'm going to get my ricotta made now. For ricotta, I'm only going to make sort of 300 grams of actual working ricotta, which is going to need a litre of milk. All right, now the one thing I have noticed, I've been making ricotta for many years, is ultra heat treated milk, UHT milk, does not work for ricotta, all right? So you need to use fresh milk. I use full cream, I use Norco. That's just the brand I like. We want a litre of milk. This ricotta will stay in your fridge for a good few days as well. So if you wanted to have ricotta for something else and you were making this dish as well, you can always double the recipe. Now, all we need to do is get our milk up to a heat, all right? We want it just before boiling. So right there at the cusp of boiling, but not quite boiling. So I'm gonna put that on the heat. While I do that, I need to measure out my vinegar. And you can use apple cider vinegar, you can use white wine vinegar. I'm just using plain old white vinegar. And for my 1 litre of milk, I want 50 mils of vinegar. Okay, we're not adding that yet. I just want it ready to go. And we're also going to need a little bit of salt. So I'm going to use about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and that's now ready to go as well. The other thing you're going to need if you want to make ricotta is some cheesecloth and like a straining colander. So I'm going to use a colander over a bowl, and I've got some cheesecloth that is ready to go as well. But that is it. It's a really simple, very few ingredient cheese, and it's easy to make at home, and it's quite cheap to make at home. I find it's a little bit cheaper than the cheapest ricotta I've found. But if you're having trouble getting your hands on ricotta and you need it, it's really easy to make. So get this nice and warm. We want our milk almost boiling, but not boiling. All right, so while we're waiting on that ricotta milk to come up to temperature, the honey soy chicken is looking good. We're not quite ready on the rice component, but what we're going to do is add our corn now. And some of our beans. And that is going straight back into the oven. All right, it's only going to be about 10 more minutes, gauging by the rice. Back in the oven, let's get that finished off. All right, our milk is there, we are hot, we are just about to boil. So now what I want to do is add my vinegar and salt. And just give that a gentle stir. You'll see that the curds and the whey start to separate. Like that. You can see it's gotten lumpy. That's exactly what we want. That is our cheese. Okay, now we want to just get this up to temperature again. We want to see it start to boil, not boil. We want to see the bubbles start, and then we're going to stop the heat. So just like that, that's where we want to be. In saying that, it happened. Okay, take it off the heat, pop a lid on, and I'm just going to let that rest for 15 minutes. We'll continue with our meatball dish. This is going to do its magic in the background. The chicken drumsticks are ready. Okay, I'm going to pop that one also over here. Out of the way. We're going to keep going with the Italian meatballs, Italian pasta bake, I don't know what to call this one. Meatballs, Italian meatball bake. Spraying my dish, and again, let's just dump some stuff in here. I have a bag of fusilli pasta, straight in, spread out nicely. To that, we're going to add a jar of pre-made pasta sauce. This is just Italian tomato and basil. To that jar, I'm going to add the other half a can of chicken stock that I didn't use in the pork, just to get all of the last bits of this out. Okay. We also want to add a can of tomatoes, and another full jar of chicken stock. All right. You may need to add a little bit of water to this one, depending on how it goes. I want to hit it with a little bit of salt, realizing that the pasta sauce was seasoned. Some salt and pepper. I'm going to put some Italian herbs on top, just because I want this one to be well flavored. We're going to add, I've got 4 little mushrooms here, and I'm just going to add those. I've got some silver beet, that I was growing in my garden. I didn't even realize that some had come up. I planted seeds for it all over the place, and it just sort of, I didn't think any was coming up. There we go, we had a little one in there. So I'm just layering all of this on top. As you can see, I've got some basil here, and I'm going to keep some for the end when it comes out of the oven. I'm also going to be putting some pesto on this one. If I have some left. I think I have some left in my cupboard. In my fridge, I mean. A little bit of basil, a little bit of oregano. Use whatever Italian herbs you have growing or available that are fresh, but basil is kind of number one. That in there. Okay, I'm going to give it just a gentle mix, just to get some of the greens into the pasta a little bit. I've got some green beans I want to put into this, simply because I had them. These were the ones I just picked. So I'm going to just cut those smaller. All right, now I'm going to put our meatballs in. Alright, now to this I'm going to add just a jar of passata, or as much as I need, just to cover the meatballs. And we will be putting grated cheese on top of this and ricotta, but not yet. So as soon as I pop this in the oven, I'm going to grate some tasty cheese. Alright, they are ready for the oven, and I have space in my oven, so I'm going straight in. And we will check our pork. They are coming along nicely. So the pork is smelling delicious and looks great. And the vegetables are starting to colour and blister nicely. So I'll pull this out so I can show you what I'm doing. But I'm going to pour our sauce on this now. Because those meatballs look like they're probably halfway to 3/4 of a way done. Alright, pour the sauce just like that. So all I did was pour it on, I don't need to mix it, and straight back in the oven so it can finish cooking. They smell so, so good. So I need to grate some cheese to go on the Italian meatballs, but we're going to finish off the ricotta. I've just got a bowl here, one that's big enough to hold the whey that's going to come out of the cheese, a colander or a strainer, and some cheesecloth. So put that in there. This has been resting for at least 15 minutes, and you can see we have like floating cheese in whey. So that's your curd and your whey. We want to separate those carefully. Now I simply just grab all the corners of my cheesecloth and press to get the whey out. And now that will just sit. I'll put it onto here until we're ready to use it. Otherwise you could just pop it in a little mold. I often use these little terracotta molds, and I'll just put it in there, let it cool down and pop it in the fridge. Now the whey, you can use that for things like pancakes, you can add it to bread. There's lots of things you can do with whey, but it's up to you if you want to just discard it or you want to use it for some other purpose. I'm not going to use this one today. Alright, I've pulled the pork out of the oven. So it's finished. I'll show you that one. All right. We are ready to top the Italian meatball with our cheese now, because when I've tested, I've given it a little stir, and the pasta is about 5 to 10 minutes off being actually ready. All right, I've given the meatballs a bit of a stir. They are pretty well cooked. So just some grated cheese on top. Be as generous as you like. My family like the grated cheese, so we go in with the grated cheese. And then on top of that, this is where we use our ricotta, holding itself together beautifully, as you can see. All right, and we'll probably use half of this beautiful fresh ricotta cheese. And when this is finished baking in the oven, we will put a little bit of pesto, dolloped around as well, and some fresh basil, and it is delicious. My kids love this one. Actually, all of us love this one. So we can pop that straight back into the oven, let the cheese finish bubbling away, getting nice and golden and beautiful, and it will be ready. And that will be all 4 dishes done. I'm going to get all of these ready, finished off. Okay, so to top the Moroccan chicken, quinoa, and pumpkin, I'm just getting a little bit of yogurt, and I just want just a little drizzle of yogurt over the top. And we want a little bit of parsley on top of that one. That is now ready for the honey soy chicken or teriyaki style chicken. I like to go in with just a little bit of sweet soy at the end. Gives it a little bit of almost like a sauce. Not that it needs a sauce so much. We've got some fresh shallots for this one. And again, a sprinkle of sesame seeds. For the pork meatball, they are warm, so I will move that along. For the pork meatball, I have some sage here. I'm just going to go over the top with some sage and a little bit of parsley on that one. I do have rocket, and I might serve some rocket with the pork dish when it's time to eat. Right, our final dish is out of the oven. We are going to finish that one off with some pesto. I don't have much left. I need to make some more pesto. And my pesto is nice. It's gone really dark, and that is from just the basil oxidizing. So it's still good, it's just really dark now. So some nice big chunks of pesto. The ricotta looks and smells so good. I've got some fresh basil leaves and a little bit of parsley. And that is done. So that is my 4 easy tray baked dinners for busy weeknights. Families will enjoy them. They all smell incredible. I'll give them a little tiny taste, but since these are our dinners sort of the next 4 nights, I'm not going to eat a full portion. Yeah, they all smell delicious. Let's have a taste. I'll show you what they look like up front, up close. But yeah, these were really simple to make, pretty economical. A lot of things came out of our garden, herbs and things like that. But yeah, I hope you give these a go. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below, let me know where you're watching from. And if you like any of these dishes. As always, the ingredients for my recipes will be in the description box below. If you want to know how to make them, that's what the video is for. Feel free to watch it a few times. Okay, so let's get up nice and close. This is the baked honey soy or teriyaki style chicken drumsticks with rice. Next up you have the Moroccan chicken, pumpkin and quinoa. We have our pork and sage meatballs with roasted veggies and a mustard apple cream sauce. And then finishing it off at the back, we have an Italian meatball pasta with homemade ricotta dolloped with pesto. So thank you for watching today's video. I hope you did enjoy it. Don't forget, if you haven't found me on Instagram yet, I will make sure there's a tag there for you. Have a look at that, because sometimes I'll put a little behind the scenes or ask you questions, what you want to see filming, things of that nature. Anyway, have a fantastic week and I'll catch you next time. Bye.